It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
My name is Patrick Brown, and this is the Hockey Writers Grindline, the Red Wings roundtable for the hockey writers. For the past 5 years, the Grindline's been a weekly column for the hockey writers, and now we are coming to you in person. We are excited for another opportunity to discuss the latest Red Wings news, rumors, and strategy with you, the Hockeytown faithful. We're still a three-man unit here as Tony continues his massive redesign of Matthew Stafford's former house, but I assure you, you're still in for a treat. With us, as always, one of the most talented writers here at the Hockey Writers, Devin Little. Devin, what's happening, man?
Don't humble me like that. I'm doing good. Baseball started yesterday. They started off with a win. Miggy hit a home run in a snow globe. Great stuff. Happy to be here with both of you guys. Yeah, let's get the ball rolling.
That was vintage Cabrera, and I have to say the fact that he slid in the second because he didn't know that the ball cleared the wall was a great way to start the year. A lot of fun to watch. Up next, Kyle Knopp, who is gunning for our version of the Calder Trophy this year. Kyle, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Another excellent start to our weekend here. So excited to be here with you guys and ready to go.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have the band back together for another week. So let's jump right in, guys. Before we get into the main agenda, let's talk about the week that was. Had some ups, had some downs since the last time we talked. In fact, the Red Wings bounced back and swept Columbus, which was awfully surprising to see, and then turned around and got swept in a series by Florida. The first game, not much to write home about. The second game, they at least went to overtime and lost. But let's just get your thoughts about the week that was. That really quick. One good, one bad that you take from the week. Devin, we'll start with you.
So starting with my good, excuse me, the two games against Columbus and then last night's game against Florida illustrate the fact that if the Red Wings are playing a 60-minute game, if they're putting in the effort for the full 60, they can skate with just about any team in this league. I mean, we've seen them beat Tampa Bay before, so they can literally, if they're going full throttle, they can play. Now the trick is getting to full 60. And I think that part of the reason why they fell flat on Tuesday is because they were so burnt out from a hard practice on Friday and then two 60-minute efforts Saturday and Sunday, with only a day between Sunday and Tuesday. 3 games in 4 nights is hard no matter what team you are. And I think they kind of showed that on Tuesday. But yeah, good thing they can play with people now. And that wasn't necessarily the case last season. And then my bad thing is that I think last night's game really showed just the overall talent gap that there is between the Red Wings and the better teams in the league. Florida was missing Barkov. They're missing Ekblad. They're missing Hornquist. We thought for a second there that Huberdeau was going to be gone. Those are all top grade players, and Florida still came out ahead. And it just goes to show that the Red Wings, they got good pieces. They got some good talent, but they don't have those true, clutch time difference makers that Tampa Bay is loaded with, that Vegas has, that, those top tier teams are just loaded with. Now they might be in the pipeline, we might start to see them starting next season, but we don't have them yet. So until then, we just gotta grind out these victories like we've seen this season.
Patience is a virtue, Devin. Patience is a virtue, I
Absolutely.
suppose. And that feels like about where we're at right now with the development of this team. Kyle, over to you. One good thing, one bad thing that you got from the week that was.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it quick because I actually have kind of 2 bad things that go together as one, and then a few good things, actually. So the bad thing I'll start with is we had quite a few missed assignments and miscommunication, especially in Tuesday's game. It does go back to what Devin said, hard practice Friday, big back-to-back games, against Columbus, coming back on the road then. it's tough, and they weren't quite ready. They gave up that goal against early in that game, and then had to try to claw their way back the rest of the game, and just didn't have it. And then so for the good, I want to highlight Grice. I think he looked really well in last night's game. I think he played really well. Not so, hard to get tossed in on Tuesday, but he turned around and showed up last night. And then, I'm going to give Blashill a little bit of love for doing a little bit of line mix-ups. We talked about this a little bit last week, and between Tuesday and Thursday's games, he did switch the lines just a little bit, jumbled them, and I mean, the boys came out and played a lot harder on Thursday. So that was nice to see him shift it a little bit. So
I like it. I think from my perspective, the Columbus series was the good. Especially after getting embarrassed. And I think we can all agree the game that preceded that was an embarrassing effort, 7-1, something like that. So I think that Columbus series was the good. The bad, in my opinion, is the fact that we have to sit here and analyze things for the bad, like, oh, well, they were tired after having a tough practice and then 2 back-to-back games. Well, guess what? You play in the NHL. And every team has to do that. So in my opinion, the bad is that we have to even talk about that. Now that said, I think there's been, it was tough early in the season to tell just what we had, but I actually think there's been marked improvement in this team as the year has progressed. I think a lot of people forget that Tyler Bertuzzi, a top 6 forward, arguably a top line forward, especially if you talk to the people who comment on our articles, he's not in the lineup. He played 9 games, and he hasn't been in the lineup all year. And I think a lot of people forget that. That's a huge hole that's been present almost the entire season. So a lot of good, I think, comparatively speaking, but obviously a lot to work on as things move forward. Devin, to you.
I just want to we've mentioned this before on the show, but I just want to reiterate the fact that, in my opinion, you can tell that this is a better group than last season's team because they respond to getting spanked. Last year, they would get spanked and then show up and get spanked again. They got spanked on Thursday. They had a hard practice, and then they had 2 really good games in a row. And we're at a phase in this team where it's baby steps, but they are taking those baby steps.
Yeah.
Well said. A great point. Well said. Kyle, anything to add?
No, I think Devin brings up a great point. We're seeing them, the compete level is so much higher this year. And, credit that to coaches or captains or whomever you want, but it's there this season. It hasn't been there in the past couple seasons. And that's a great, silver lining to see right now. That they're coming out, and they got spanked on Tuesday night as well, and they came out and they gave up a little bad power play goal at the end of the third there, but they fought hard for a point in last night's game. So it's something we got to hang our hats on and build off of.
That was a really good call out there at the end about how they responded again against Florida, and maybe the end result wasn't there, but the heart was there. You could see, and they had a shot. They had a good chance to win that game for sure. So this actually works as a good segue of sorts. It's like we've done this before, fellas. So we're talking about the good, we're talking about the bad, and what does that really reflect? The rebuild, which is what we're doing. And Kyle, you had a few thoughts on the rebuild earlier this week with a piece that you published. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, make sure you do. Kyle, you called out 2 main things just to set the stage: more scoring and better coaching. Yep. Yeah, I'd say absolutely. Spot on. So I'd like you let's swing it to you first and talk about your article. What do you mean? What needs to happen for this rebuild to continue to progress, to get to a point that all Red Wings fans want to see?
Yeah, great question. And, at the sake of sounding like Captain Obvious, we need scoring to win games. And in order to get that, you need to let your skill players have that creativity to create those offensive chances, give them that longer leash to let them explore in the offensive zone, to create chances. Hockey's a very fluid game, players have to know that they're going to have the support that if they try something and make a mistake, they're not going to be benched for it. Some coaches know how to walk the line really well. Others don't, whether it's the extreme of benching someone right away, Tortorella, no names, but or the other way and just let guys play, whenever. So you got to find that line. And so that's what I mean by the better coaching, is being able to go at individualistic basis down your bench and get those guys to perform for their roles. Every team has a role player. Every player on a team has a role within that system. The guys are starting to buy into it. So now we need to build off of that. Let those guys have those opportunities to build off that. And so that's what I mean by the better coaching. And then that allows the more scoring, which will put up more wins. And so that's just kind of the point I was trying to make.
So, Devin, I want to swing to you, but really quick, Kyle, just a yes or no answer is perfectly fine for this follow-up question. Better coaching. Is the current coaching staff, in your opinion, able to provide that better coaching?
I'm going to say no. I think they are a good group. I don't think they're the group we need to move forward. I don't think it's something we need to address this season. But I think coming into next season, I think a new face behind the bench, maybe at a couple different positions, could be the extra kick we need. Sorry, it wasn't a yes or no.
No, I think that was good. And that's a perfect way to swing it over to Devin. Devin, same questions for you. First of all, what's it going to take to accelerate or at least continue progress on the rebuild? Any thoughts on Kyle's commentary? And then I'll pose the same question to you as well. Is this coaching staff capable of getting them there?
So the first part of the question, you capped off just a little bit ago. You said patience is a virtue, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We just got to be patient. Next season, Red Wings are hopefully adding Moritz Seider to the group. Probably going to add one or two other kids that we may not be thinking of. Rasmussen will probably be on the team on a full-time basis. Svechnikov will be playing for someone else. We'll talk about that later. But Smith will maybe be on the team. The youth movement will really start to take full, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be, the team's not going to go from an average of 30 years old to 20 years old overnight. And that's fine. And even then, as great as Seider looks, I think it was Craig Button who just came out today and said that he's the top prospect outside of the NHL. It's not a guarantee he's going to come into the NHL and be an all-star from right off the get-go. I think he's going to be a good player, but I don't think he's going to be, a Quinn Hughes where everyone's all of a sudden saying he's a Norris Trophy candidate. So it takes time to get the kids on the team, and then it takes time for them to get good. And I think that's, as I know, I'm preaching something that people don't always have, and that's patience. But that's where we're at. We just got to keep drafting, just got to keep adding kids to the team, and keep doing it in a way that that you got to sprinkle them in, right? You can't just go full throttle and just all of a sudden have an AHL team. You got to sprinkle them in, and that takes time. So that's, for my part, that's what's got to happen to just kind of keep furthering the rebuild, is just keep drafting, keep developing, keep adding kids to the roster over time. And then to the second part of the question, I'm going to kind of touch on this on our next topic a little bit. But I think that some people on the coaching staff could stay, but I definitely think that the entire staff should not return next season. I think that change, I will echo what Kyle said. I do think change is needed, but I'm not sure that a full clean slate is needed.
So I then have a follow-up, and we will kind of segue right into that. For what it's worth, really quick, I think the rebuild just needs to continue on the pace that it's going. I think it's going perfectly fine. I'm comfortable with the moves that Yzerman's making. I'm comfortable seeing the talent develop. You knew it wasn't going to be a good year, even though we all hoped, We're realists. So for what it's worth, I think patience is the number one thing. Really, still for the next year at least.
Yep.
But you gave an interesting answer to the coaching aspect, and I think I see where you're going with that. So let's really quick talk about one more thing before we hit the midway point of our show. Let's talk about the penalty kill or lack thereof, because I think you may be heading somewhere with that coaching comment you made as well. So really quick, for those who aren't familiar with the Red Wings penalty kill, I looked it up right before the show just to make sure. 73.39% effective, 28th overall in the league. So it's horrible. Last 15 games has been better at 77.2%, nowhere near where you want to see it be whatsoever. They've had a few good shutdown games, but overall, on average, they're given about one power play goal they're allowing per game-ish. That's a little inflated, but you catch my drift. So, penalty kill. Where art thou? We're not seeing it. Devin, what needs to happen to make that right?
So it's kind of funny because, a month ago or so, we were talking about how the power play was non-existent. And we were theorizing ways on how to get it a jump start, trying to diagnose what was wrong. And a couple weeks later, they figured it out. Now they're still not, doing great by any means, but they started to actually put the puck in the net. And while we were focusing on the power play, it seems like we kind of lost sight of the other side of the puck. The penalty kill hasn't been good this season either. Like at no point has it been like really good. It's been average at best. And I've noticed that they're giving, obviously they lean on guys like Glendenning a lot in the penalty kill, and that's fine. That's kind of his role on the team. But I've noticed Rasmussen on the penalty kill. I don't think he gets a ton of minutes, but I think he finishes out shifts. And I know that going into the season, they were contemplating using Mantha on the penalty kill. I don't think they ended up doing it, but I think that they have ideas on how to maybe change things up in the penalty kill, but they aren't necessarily doing it. Now, as for what changes need to be made, I think you need to pull the plug on Doug Huda, which is the penalty kill coach. That's one of the changes I'm talking about from a minute ago. We've talked about how you don't want to fire Jeff Blashill because Dan Bylsma is kind of the natural successor. And I subscribe to that notion. I don't want Dan Bylsma coaching the team because I don't want him coaching the power play. I definitely don't want Doug Huda coaching the penalty kill either. I think that specialty teams are not good this season, and I think you need to hold the coaches who are responsible for those units accountable. Pat, you've said this multiple times. You've sung his praises before. Blashill at least has a track record of winning, and he's done it with teams that didn't have Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin on it. Mm-hmm. Dan Bylsma's biggest claim to fame is winning with that team. Doug Huda
barely.
Barely. Exactly. If Nick Lidstrom hits the net, we probably aren't even talking about this.
Why? Anyway.
And then Doug Huda has never he's had fine seasons. I think he came to us from Boston and he did fine there, but even then, I've never been really impressed by the penalty kill since he's been here. So what my solution, I guess moving backwards a little bit here, my solution to the coaching thing is because we talked about this, maybe Blashill does come back. If he does, though, surround him with different voices, get different voices in that room, because clearly something is wrong. And if it's not Blash, fine, but we need to get new voices. And I think you'll see some improvements on the specialty teams if you do.
I think those are very good points. Kyle, toss it over to you. What needs to be done to address the abysmal penalty kill?
Yes. So, actually going back through, I went back through and also looked at the numbers, and within just the last week, in the last 4 games, they only gave up 1 power play goal. Granted, that was the one late in the game on Thursday, which tied the game and ended up going to overtime. But the 2 games against Columbus, they shut down their power play, and the first game against Florida, surprisingly, Florida didn't score on there as well. So it's one of those things. Sorry.
Which one of you two leaked it to them that we were going to talk about this?
But no, it's it's not there. Obviously, the penalty kill is not there overall. It's showing signs of life. Is it mean we need to get some different bodies out there? Especially if we end up losing some of the bigger penalty kill.
Yep.
Say Luke Glendenning in the next week or two. What's that going to look like? We're going to lose a lot of faceoffs in our own zone on those penalty power plays against, and we're going to also have one less body that does a lot of shot blocking and gets into the dirty areas. So it's not going to get any better unless they find a way to really buy in and sell out. But I think as long as they're hovering around the 75-80%, I think we got to take it for what it is this year and just say we're already shorthanded in the talent department to begin with. So anytime it's a 5-on-4 against us on the ice, it's probably going to be bad.
I agree. I think those are all great points. I think there's one more call out I want to make before we move on, which is, and you actually called it out, Kyle. Remember, you said the power play goal they gave up was the equalizer on Thursday. And if you recall, how was that penalty taken? Flipped it over the glass.
Yep.
You gotta eliminate stupid penalties like that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, even just for the game, your penalty kill takes a hit too because they gave up a goal. Plus look, the game's tied. So I realize that's such an obvious thing to say, but the Red Wings may come away with a split series and a win against Florida on Thursday if you don't just stupidly flip the puck over the net. And I know it's easy, or over the boards. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and say, I get it. Save your hateful comments. I understand. But it doesn't make it any less true. And that's how we close this topic. So for everybody watching, really want to thank you for joining us, for watching. Take the opportunity, press that like button, subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. If you've got a question, post it in the comments. We pride ourselves in bringing you the very best content, both in print and video form, and a little like goes a long way. Of course, check out all of our other friends doing shows: Blackhawks Banter, Sabres Scoop, Flames Face Off, Maple Leafs Lounge, cranking out great content. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of more alliteration shows coming your way as well. And then, of course, don't forget about the OG show, the Hockey Writers Live. I had the privilege, actually, of being a part of that a couple days ago, where actually they let off with Jarmo Kekalainen, which was awesome. If you haven't checked out that show, make sure you check out Mark's interview with Jarmo. Really, really good stuff. And then afterwards, we kind of had a trade deadline panel. So all around, great stuff. Like, subscribe, comment, thumbs up. Life is good. Let's move on.
Just want to jump in real quick and give you your shout out. You really showed up on Wednesday. I'm proud of you.
Yes. Yeah, you did an excellent job, Pat.
Oh, you guys are too kind. We used to have a live show, and I think I was able to be prepared because of that, which was nice. So, thank you. Thanks for watching too. It was a lot of fun. It's a great group. We got a great group that we write with all around here at the Hockey Writers, and it's fun to be a part of it for sure. So, that said, let's put on our GM hats for a second straight week, gentlemen, because our very own Tony Wolak, the man, the myth, the legend, who's been on this show enough for us to know he exists but keeps us wanting more, dropped an article earlier this week, trade deadline. And I'm just going to highlight these really quick, fellas. Each of the trades that he did, let's see how you feel, if there are any missed opportunities, things like that. We got 4 trades to get through here, and then Devin, we're going to talk about Jonathan Bernier after that. So, trade 1 for Tony. Patrick Nemeth to Vegas for a 2022 third rounder and retain 50% of the salary. Quick, yes or no? Kyle, do you take that one or not?
Yes. Yeah, I take that one. Absolutely.
Devin, you take that one or not?
Begrudgingly, I take it.
I absolutely take that one for what it's worth. I think it's good value. We're building up stock in 2022, building up those assets. Life is good there. Starts to get a little more interesting the further down the list we go. So the answers may not be as clear. Sam Gagne. So the next one, Gagne plus a 2021 sixth rounder to Florida for a 2022 third rounder and a 2021 seventh rounder. Thoughts? We'll start with you, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we pulled the trigger on this one. It's pretty good return, and I think that for what Gagne was expected to come in and be shipped out, that this is a decent return and probably one of the best we'll get.
Devin, you take this one.
I'm with Kyle. I think that I mean, we got to remember he was tacked on to the Andreas Athanasiou deal, so it's added assets from that deal. So when you look at it that way, it's a win-win.
Yep, totally agree. And I think when you get to the sixth and seventh rounds, flipping those in this year's draft wouldn't be that big a deal. Sure, you see a lot of diamonds in the rough out there for sure, but you just never know what you're going to hit. And your positioning sixth or seventh round at that point, I don't think makes a whole lot of difference.
You can't bank on that either.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So let's move to trade number 3. If you guys didn't read the article, make sure you do, because this is actually really cool. Bobby Ryan on the trading block, and multiple teams were clamoring after Bobby Ryan. The winners were the Boston Bruins with a 2021 second rounder and a 2022 fourth rounder. You take this deal. Devin, we'll start with you this time.
So without giving away too much, I have to give Tony his props for working up the value. And I take the deal. I think just a second rounder is good value, but then to throw on a fourth, I'm pleased.
Kyle.
I absolutely, and I again agree with Devin. I mean, Tony did a fantastic job of go read the article, because he does a great job putting this trade together. And I think we would be lucky for this type of deal with Bobby Ryan here. So absolutely do it. Did it yesterday, get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I think adding another second rounder to this year's haul, even though it's not a terribly deep draft, that's still a really high asset. And the 2022, anything you can add into 2022 to keep building that out is just icing on the cake. I may have tried to leverage one of our picks to try to maybe jump into a first rounder or something like that, but that could be a pipe dream as well. And there's a good return on this one. So I actually think this is the best deal of the bunch, in my opinion. I really like that Bobby Ryan deal. Okay, the last one that our good friend Mr. Wolak made is everybody's favorite face-off man this year, Luke Glendenning. So LGD Tony doing a little business with an old pal in Edmonton, and Luke Glendenning traded to Edmonton for Ty Tullio and Kyle Turris. An interesting combination. Kyle Turris, I think, was basically a salary dump, if I read that correctly.
Yeah.
Sad for a former number 3 pick, I think he was. But do you do this deal? Yes or no? Devin, we'll start with you.
All right. So a little background information before I give my answer. One, last year we did a site-wide draft and we all represented different teams. And I represented the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think in the third round, I snagged Tullio. And my big reason why is because he has a lot of intangibles that he's somebody that I think could wear an A in the NHL. And I'm all about guys like that. He has, in the comments section, Tony mentioned that he's kind of like Darren Helm with less speed and more offensive ability. And honestly, I think that sounds like a pretty good player. So I like Tullio from the get-go. So if he's coming over, that's cool. And then in another piece, I don't remember which one it was, but I mentioned Turris as somebody that the Red Wings could target. I honestly think it was like a thing that people that the Red Wings could target to bring on salary and get like an asset like Mark Stahl type of thing. And I mentioned Turris. And I don't hate Kyle Turris. I realize that he's fallen very far from where he was, but I think he can easily slide into Glendenning's spot, and he's not on a huge deal anymore. And you could theoretically do with him what you did with Sam Gagner, where you hold him for a year, coach him up, put him in a good spot, and then you trade him next year. So I like this deal.
Devin, with some absolute amazing research on that, I have to say. I am impressed. I do not feel worthy to have this conversation with you because I was going to say no to this deal because it seemed like it was just the sake of doing a deal. But you've changed my mind. You have persuaded me. And I really want to see what Ty Tulio can do. So get on the phone, Stevie, make it happen. Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Pat, I'm with you. I originally was thinking when I saw this deal done in the article, like, why are we helping out, Kenny Holland again? Was kind of my first thought.
Helping out.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways.
I mean, Devin, I love your argument, man. You definitely can convince a lot of people that this is the deal to make. And if we are doing all the other deals on top of this and we're losing Bobby Ryan and Gagner, I think we have to make this deal because we need to field a team that's going to be competitive for the rest of the year. Turris will be the guy that can step in, bottom six and lead a leadership type role as an experienced player in the league. And if Tulio is half as good as how Devin just described him, I mean, sign me up to get a front row ticket at that. So, let's do it.
Two things I want to throw out real quick. As great as I just made Tulio sound, I will say if I'm in Stevie's spot and I don't know what offers Tony was fielding. I don't know, what conversations he was having, but if in a perfect world, I would rather get a draft pick for Luke Glendenning, but for the deal that is, I like it. If you can get equal value, I'm cool with that. And then the other thing I want to throw out is that before we started this, Pat, you mentioned how Tony has been on here enough to know that we know that he exists, but not enough to make us want more. There are definitely some new viewers of ours that hear us keep mentioning this Tony Wolak deal, and they're like, "Who is this guy?"
Well, you know what? That's their cue to go to thehockeywriters.com
and check him out, and check out our older episodes. He does exist. He is a person.
I love it. Like I said before with LGD, it felt like a deal just for doing a deal. I really want to see these draft picks, but Devin, you convinced me. Yeah. So I think we give Tony a stamp of approval on all of them. Mm-hmm. So quick before we move on to mailbag, one more item to talk about. Devin, we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but you wrote about wanting this maybe not the time to deal away Bernier. There's been a lot of talk about dealing away Bernier, understandably so. His injury may hamper that a little bit anyways, but there's been a lot of talk about that, what the type of return you could get. But Devin, you don't think that's wise. You wrote an article saying as much earlier this week, so take us through that a little bit. Why should the Wings hang on with Bernier?
So this kind of comes with a big old asterisk, as is the case with most players on this team. And that's unless a huge offer comes along, because
of course,
yes. But a couple of things here. One, it's kind of funny because I happened to watch the Sabres Scoop from yesterday or whatever day it was. And they were talking about how there's rumors out there that Buffalo might move Linus Ullmark. And Ullmark is responsible for 6 or 7 of their 7 or 8 wins. Like, there's only one win that he's not responsible for. And that made me think of Jonathan Bernier. Red Wings have won 29 games since last season, from last season to this season. And Bernier has been the goalie of record for 23 of them. I think that what it comes down to for me is that playing competitive hockey, playing winning hockey, and just being in games is better for the team's development than just tanking. Obviously you get better draft picks for just losing night in and night out. But as we found out last season, even if you're the worst team in the league, you're not guaranteed to pick in the top 3. Even with the changes they just made, you're not even guaranteed to pick in the top 2. So I would rather see the team keep guys that help them stay competitive, but not so much so that they're all of a sudden outside of a top 10 pick. And I think Jonathan Bernier fits that to a T. He's been better than people realize. He's arguably given them top 10 goaltending since January of last year. And he does it on a cheap deal. He's not like overly expensive. And even if the Red Wings do resign him, it's not going to break the bank. And I think that he's somebody, obviously the team plays well in front of him. I would rather see the Red Wings re-sign him, and even if it's to like a 2-year deal, and just know that they have a guy that can keep them in games, maybe not win a bunch of games for them, but just keep them in it and help them continue to play competitive hockey. Now,
Sure.
Of course, like I said, if blow my socks off with a good deal, by all means. If someone throws a first-round pick at me for Jonathan Bernier, I hate to say it, but bye, Bernier. We'll circle back and call you in the offseason. Maybe try to bring you back. But as is right now, I'm not trading Jonathan Bernier for a 4th-round pick.
It wouldn't be a show if he didn't lament the Yarncroc to Yarncroc Legwand deal.
Exactly.
But really interesting points. I also think on top of that, Devin, in my opinion, and really enjoyed the read, by the way. I think we felt like potentially entering the year, this time of year, maybe Bernier would be a viable trade chip, but we were kind of thinking we could rely on Thomas Greiss.
Yes.
And I think that feeling has changed throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
So just some interesting context there. Kyle, and sorry, Devin, finish your thought, please.
And one other thing too, with that point, there were rumors that were coming out a little bit before the free agent period and then even after it, where the Red Wings were supposedly interested in signing Jacob Markstrom, who eventually went on to sign with Calgary. And I can't confirm that myself, but I think that, believe it or not, I think it's a good thing that they didn't sign Markstrom. I think Markstrom is a very good goalie, but I don't think that this team is in a position to sign a very good goalie. Like you just mentioned, Greiss has been a little bit less than what we had hoped for, but I think it's fine because we can appreciate what we have in Jonathan Bernier.
Absolutely. I agree. Kyle, your thoughts before we move into our mailbag, which is exciting.
I mean, Devin, if you haven't read the piece, go read the piece. Devin does an excellent job laying everything out and all the reasons exactly why we should be keeping Bernier. He just touched on a lot of those right now, but
you guys are too kind.
Cheap goalie. He's a he's a solid goalie. I mean, he's playing lights out this year in a season that would otherwise be very dark, if that makes sense. He's been there the whole year, and so it's very unfortunate to see him go down with that injury. At first it was, are we going to lose trade value for it? But really looking back, and I did enjoy Pickard's games in against Columbus, but are we going to see that? Are we going to see the Florida game? Is it worth having that every other night and just deflating the rest of the team? So I think the move is keep Bernier, possibly bring him back next year, especially if he's, we're going to get him at about the same value. And then, as we bring up some of our other younger goalies, he'll be there to really kind of help coach them as to how to be a professional. And everything that I've seen out of Bernier says I would love to have him be a mentor in that locker room.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think all really good points. We'll see how the next, week and a half, 10 days or so unfold. But looking forward to it. So to close our show today, we are going to go into a mailbag in which we had some of our favorite Twitter followers pose some questions to us on the state of the Red Wings, on the state of the trade deadline, on what to expect in the future. So we're going to jump in and gentlemen, for the sake of the wonderful people who edit our show, let's keep our answers to 30, 60 seconds each, and we'll move on to the next one, and then we'll call it a show. So the very first question we got was from a very disgruntled reader who goes by the name of Ian McNaughton. And Ian wrote on Twitter, and this is a direct quote here, "Are you out of your mind for not saying yes to a Mantha Byram swap?" And for those who may be wondering what that is, I invite you to tune into our show last week. Go ahead and check that out. You can get all the history there. But Devin, we're going to start with you. Ian came calling, and he does not have nice things to say. What say you?
I would tell Mr. McNaughton that I did say that it was very close for me. And I think that if I had an assistant GM like him who was in my ear telling me, no, you got to take this deal, I probably would take the deal. I don't think it's that far off. I think I think I said if you could throw in a 6th round pick, I'd take it. But no, I don't think we're out of our minds for saying no for wanting just a little bit more.
Kyle, what about you?
I agree with Devin. I think we're right there. We're getting there. If it's Mantha for Byram in a pick, even if it's a late 6th, 7th round pick, that's something that's really going to make it push it over the edge. The prospects that Detroit has coming up are very heavy in the D, back end. So having Byram back there will just cause an extra log jam. And so I just don't see it going through without another pick coming back.
I agree. For what it's worth, Ian, all I can say to you, because I know you're watching or at least listening, is he's no Kenji Jojima. Okay, he's no Kenji Jojima. So that's why I turned it down. That and the lack of assets. But we appreciate you listening. We miss you. Remember, it's an open invitation. There's always a seat at the table for you, Ian. Up next, we have Sean at Mr. Always Right, in fact, asking, witnessing what you have of the team to this point, do you wish they found a way to sneak into the playoffs this year, or just hope it plays out as it is and reset for next year? Kyle, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I think we just kind of play it out this year. Obviously getting the playoff experience is always good for younger players, but I just don't see the benefit this year with sneaking into a playoff series and seeing another divisional team. I don't think it's going to have the same sort of weight, at least in the first round, maybe even in the second round as well. So I think in this season, it's better for the team to just kind of play things out and reset. And I'll just leave it at that.
Devin, what about you?
I think that the Red Wings are right where they need to be. Somebody I know mentioned that they could potentially sneak into the playoffs before the season began. Yeah, I don't know who it was. And while that was a fun thought to entertain, and honestly, I mean, I miss Red Wings playoff hockey. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I think that this team is better served in the long term to get another top 5 pick than to get a crazy playoff run. I like that they're playing better this season. I like that they're more competitive in terms of the league. I guess in terms of the division, just because they're only playing the division. But I'm happy that they're not in the thick of the playoff race because I want them to get another top blue chip prospect.
Yeah, my thoughts on it for what it's worth. First of all, it's been great. Like you said, there have been fun games to watch, which I've missed. It's been nice seeing Larkin grow into the role of captain, which he's done exceptionally well. But my overall thoughts on this, Sean, this is for you. Tank all day. I'm perfectly good increasing the potential for a higher draft pick as opposed to missing out on the playoffs this year, because I don't think we would miss much if they snuck into the playoffs. So, all right, question 3. Andrew Mulville asks, of the current Red Wings players that formerly played for the Lightning, who is your favorite? And on a more serious note, should the Red Wings stick with Larkin as their franchise guy? Devin, to you.
First of all, Adam Ernie is a god when it comes to players who used to play for Tampa Bay and now play for Detroit. But as for the Larkin thing, yes. I kind of went back and forth with a reader in my in one of my other articles or someone else's article. I don't remember which article it was, but there's so many articles. You should read them all. But Larkin is a foundational piece. I think that he is to Detroit what Jonathan Toews is to Chicago. Toews is not their best player, but he is one of their best players and a player that they build around. I think that when the Red Wings are finally one of the top teams, I don't think that Larkin will be their best player, but I think that he will be one of their best players and a player that they have built around. And I think that that's perfectly fine.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm, got to throw some props out to the man who played in his 200th career game last night, Adam Ernie. He's getting up there in games played. So I think he's been fantastic this year and actually might hit his career high in points in this shortened season. He's definitely, I think he's found a place on the Detroit roster that has served him well. At this time for the Dylan Larkin, I think the answer is, of course, he is the man that we're building around. I don't see who else it would be at this point. Is there a trade out there that you would, 1-for-1, similar to the Lightning and Rangers did, where they swapped captains a few years ago, St. Louis for, Giardi, blanking, and that's not going to look good to my Lightning fans.
St. Louis
not McDonough. It was Callahan. Thank you. Should have put that in my notes. But I don't see any other teams that, Detroit's going to be able to go to and say, hey, how about we swap? People have thrown out there Eichel for Larkin, and I just don't see us building around Eichel. He's not the guy. I'll throw it to you in just a second, Devin.
Yeah, yep.
I just don't see that happening. So for right now, I think definitely focus on still building around Larkin. Go ahead, Dev.
So, and let's not forget the importance and kind of the monumental fact that Larkin's the first captain of the Red Wings to come from Michigan. I think that that's very important to this franchise and very important to branding. I think that it would take a lot for Steve Yzerman. Wow. Steve Yzerman to name Larkin captain, the first captain from the state of Michigan, and then kick him off the team. I just can't see that happening. And I think that they were very purposeful in making Larkin the captain.
Especially sorry, Pat. Especially to build off of that, how they went without a captain for the last 2-3 seasons or so, and then they made the big deal this offseason leading into making Larkin the captain. Why do that if they're just going to turn around, ship him out?
Yeah, completely agree. I think we can close the book on that. Look, Larkin's the guy, hands down. He's going to continue to be the guy, and that's who you build the team around. For what it's worth, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get beat up for this, but I don't care. I'm going to choose a Red Wing, turn Lightning, turn Red Wing, and go with Val Filppula. Really appreciate, though he may be not the same.
You mean the guy that we were dragging like 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Look, I didn't say he was my favorite player.
Okay. Touche.
I didn't say that. The question that Andrew posted is, who's your favorite former Lightning player that's on the Red Wings? And Filppula, I thought the first time around with the Wings, he brought so much to the team. He was fun to watch. It was cool to see him. He's a shell of what he was the first time around, but he'll always have a special place in my heart. And the question was, who's your favorite former Lightning player to be a Red Wing? So that's my answer on that. Let's move on to the next one. Katie Lady asks, given the abundance of left D for the Wings next season, does Albert Johansson have a chance to make the opening night roster? We'll start with you, Devin.
So I'd like to see him get a good look. I just don't think he's going to make the team. I do think that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the D going into next season. We got a lot of guys on expiring contracts. Some guys that are get shipped out. Some guys that maybe they'll retain. Have guys like Dennis Cholowski and Gustav Lindstrom that have played on the team but aren't with the team currently. We got the Seattle thing. So there's a lot of variables at play here for sure. And Johansson's a very good prospect. He's, the team's looking for guys to overperform their draft slot, and I think he's definitely fitting the bill. But I don't think next year or next season is it for him. He might get a look, but he's not going to join the roster.
And remember, the question is opening night roster.
Yeah.
So that's an important call out. Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, with the way this year, the last couple of years have been going, anything is possible. I agree, though. I think he will be close. I do not think he will be on the opening night roster. I think he will get a few looks maybe early in the season. He'll come up a few times if we're going on a normal schedule, say like October, early November, get a few feel for the NHL level, then go back down and stay in, down at Grand Rapids for the rest, maybe not the rest of the year, but for most of the year. Obviously, yes, of course, if people get shipped out this summer, this, trade deadline, we move, a couple D, and then we need those players to come up. It's possible. I do not see it happening.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think it's certainly a possibility. I actually think he will be a regular at some point on the team. I do believe that,
Yes.
Barring any sort of crazy trade or something like that. But I think he'll definitely be a regular on the team. I do not think I actually don't think there's any way he's on the opening night roster, personally. I'd cheer it on. I really like the kid. I like what he's done. It's been fun watching him develop. And he's got a good game. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He'll be a regular on this team. I don't think he makes the opening lineup in 2021-22. I just don't see that.
And let's not forget too that it's not really the Red Wings MO to really just put a bunch of kids on the roster and just hope it works. I think that the D's going to have some kids. I mean, Sider's probably going to be on the roster next year.
He better be.
Exactly. He better be. And I don't think that they're going to have him, Hronek, and a bunch of kids. Like,
right.
There's
Agreed.
going to be
and Stetcher and
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So I think it's a great question, and it's going to be fun. But as has been the theme of this show, patience, right? Patience. So, gentlemen, we will end our show with a question from Pete Bauer on hockey via Twitter, who says, "Who stays and who goes before the trade deadline? Where and what comes back in return?" And my favorite, is it too early to talk about the Seattle Kraken expansion draft? So I'll start this one off really quick and then kick it over to you, Kyle. First of all, Pete, no, it's not too early to talk about the expansion draft, but I think the Wings are going to be just fine there. Not too worried about who they're going to lose or anything along those lines. As for who stays and who goes, we've talked about it quite a bit. Your top candidates to leave are going to be your Bobby Ryans, Luke Glendennings, Mark Stahl, Sam Gagne. Those are the likely folks, and I think just about everybody agrees that in return, assets, draft picks this year, next year, beyond, is what we get in return in this humble reporter's opinion. So, Kyle, who stays? What do they get? And what are your thoughts on the expansion draft?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a defensive specific who stays, who goes. Forwards can be all over the map, and I'm going to take a couple stabs at this. So I think who stays, I think we end up keeping Merrill and Stahl. I know they're both getting tossed around as being moved, but I just don't think any team's really going to offer what we're looking for, and I don't think we'll end up giving up either of them. And then who goes? I'm going to throw this out and say I think either Stetcher or Hronek are gone. Not sure exactly what we're going to get back, but I think we're going to move a right-handed shot D, probably for some prospects or for some draft picks and maybe one or two prospects. But that's going to be my hot take for tonight. I think we're losing a right-handed shot defenseman.
There you go. I like it. Devin, bring us home.
Kyle with his first honest hot take of the show. He is officially initiated, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the grind line. So who stays, who goes? I think you both more or less hit the nail on the head. The people that we expect to be gone are the safe bets for a reason. The people that are going to stay, the people that you kind of expect to stay, the Larkins, the Domesnikovs, the Zadinas. If you're not hearing their names out there, they're probably not going anywhere. I wouldn't be surprised to see a name that we're not thinking of get moved, whether it's Hronik, whether it's Mantha, whether it's, I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah, a name we're not thinking of. I wouldn't be surprised to be surprised at least a little bit on trade deadline day. And then as for Seattle, it's never too early to think about it, because if you're not thinking about it now, it's going to be too late when it is time to think about it. But I do think you have a very good point, Pat. In the long-term picture here, they're not going to be losing anyone that's detrimental to their or super important to their what they're building. I do think they could lose somebody that we like. I could see somebody like Giovanni Smith getting sent off to Seattle, and that would suck. There's no doubt about it. But is Giovanni Smith a irreplaceable part of the Red Wings? No. So I think that's kind of the worst case scenario that's looking at Detroit. And honestly, that's not that bad of a worst case scenario.
No, I actually, the name you threw out there with Giovanni Smith, that's who I think is ultimately going to go to Seattle, and good on him. I think he'll play a regular role there, which will be great. Like you said, it'll be sad to see him go. I really like the kid. I like everything about his game. I like the fights. I love the fighting. You just don't mess with him. He'll stand up for you, and yet he's got a really strong game to back it up. So Devin, looks like you had something to say.
And if it's and if nobody claims him tomorrow at noon, then I hope that maybe Seattle will give Evgeny Svechnikov a shot, because Red Wings sure seem to not be wanting to give him a shot. So,
the waiver was interesting. It was a move I'm sure you saw afterwards, a move that was made because he hit his 10 games.
Yes.
And in order to be able to do anything with him, they had to place him on waivers if they wanted to be able to flex. So, Blashill alluded, I'm really glad you brought that up. Let's wrap the show with that. Blashill alluded months ago, even maybe before the season started, about some of the waiver moves. And he basically said, look, the league knows who's going on waivers before they go on waivers. Everybody knows. It may be a shock to the public, but everybody knows who goes on waivers before they go on waivers. So things generally happen really quick. I think Svech is going to be in the clear. Who knows? Maybe they have handshake agreements behind the scenes. You never know. I shouldn't talk about that. But regardless, I'm not too. I think it was a move that Yzerman had to make literally out of necessity. But that may be a conversation for next week, depending on how the next 12 or 13 hours go. So we will see. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Really appreciate you taking the time out to watch, to participate. Remember, like us, comment, share, subscribe. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You got P Brown Hockey Town. You got THW Knopp. You got I Had a Random Idea. Make sure to follow us all. We'll follow you right back, and make sure that you get the best possible Red Wings content and stay up to date. So Kyle, Devin, thank you so much for joining me, being a part of this show yet again. Love spending it with you two, and look forward to another one. Everybody have a good one. Thank you.